without further ado, let's get into this Ellerslie meeting. We've got 4 races we want to touch on. We want to start in the Derby, Steve. And no surprise who the favourite is.
Yeah, the filly La Creek, the one and only filly in the field, $1.85, trading in the red. Hasn't budged since the opening call on Wednesday afternoon, Thad, but $1.85 for La Creek, well played. In front of Pinarello, 3.8, clearly in that second elect. White Noise also well played at $9. Tudukaka, $13, shares that fourth line with Marchand. RJ's Flight, $15. Can't remember the last maiden to win a Derby. BP might have a bit of form reference around that, but RJ's Flight, $15 in that middle market. Then there's a decent gap. Nest Egg, Regal Lion, Asterix, all $41 each of 3, and SVR, who's a heavy liability in futures betting, Thad, around about $51. So at this stage, not one single horse is coming from the original price, but a lot of steady money around the top 2, even White Noise in that third line.
Okay, market looking reasonably settled, BP, but be no surprise, she deserves her odds-on favouritism, La Creek, off that last Avondale Guineas win.
She does, and that's the form we use, don't we, so often going into the Derby. And in the last 10 years, that has paved the way in trying to find the winner. If it's not the horse who wins the Avondale Guineas, it's a horse that has performed well in that race. In the last 10 runnings of the Avondale Guineas, we've seen 9 horses come out of that race and win. And of course, 6 of those 10 won the Avondale Guineas to go on and win the Derby. So I guess we were looking for maybe a different barrier draw for the horse. Would that have changed things? Would La Creek drawn badly? How much an effect would this had on the market in terms of her, say, starting around that 220, 240 mark? Obviously, you had her at 260 futures. Then there was those few horses came out. She was around 220 before barrier draws were announced. She gains barrier draw 1 in a race where there isn't the tactical speed from many others. She's a horse that can just plant herself there. She is a natural runner that will naturally can put herself in the running. So to be able to get 2,400 metres, she can go the short way home the whole way and follow the rail. So that is a massive advantage for the horse who was going to start the favourite in the race. And we saw her early acceleration out of the barriers too. Craig Rules in that Avondale Guineas race was keen to be able to put her in a position from barrier number 9 before going into that short run up the hill and got into that position of the trail. And it was a race where, look, it was messy for those that were back and running with La Creek's Avondale Guineas victory, which helped horses like RJ's Flight, who got a beautiful suck run underneath horses, followed the rail. I thought White Noise was, without a doubt, the horse out of the race behind La Creek with how he's been able to run the second best sectionals in the race. But now that she's drawn 1, she has the options of being leader, trailer, if anything else wants to do something different to try and upset the filly. And you've got the right man aboard who's trying to find 7 Derby victories. He knows how to win the race, and Vincent Colgan. Really, it's a hard horse to tip against, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. Would the draw have made a heck of a lot of difference? I mean, she drew 12, Steve, in an Avondale Guineas. I would probably just solidified the price, if anything.
Yeah, she might have touched even money if she'd drawn a double figure next to her name. But look, I don't think they'll want to lead. Marchand from a wide gate, maybe that pushes forward, possibly leader. The only query if the filly does lead is I think there will be a mid-race move, because if she leads, she'll be able to dictate, and if she can hold up the tempo, just slacken it off mid-race, and it's a sprint home, she wins every day of the working week. So, if she leads, she might be a bit of a sitting duck, and they might attack her mid-race around that 1,000-metre mark, and the likes of possibly SVR, Regal Lion, these one-pace stayers might look to attack her if she is the leader, even possibly Pinarello, because the only way Pinarello can beat her is if it's a true staying 2-4 event. So if she's getting her own way in front leading, then even Pinarello might make a mid-race move and really take it to around about that 800,000 metre mark. So, I think in an ideal world, with the connections and Vinnie Colgan, they'll be wanting to take a sit. Hopefully Marchand comes across from that wide gate and she can take that trailing position. But $1.85, look, I think she starts in the red regardless. I think we're pretty confident around that. Just weighing up the Avondale Guineas, the rating 65, Pinarello won on the same day. So,
this, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, on raw figures, the Avondale Guineas rated 4 lengths superior, Pinarello's victory in rating 65. But you do the weight adjustment, the Guineas still rates 2 lengths superior. So, look, it's going to be tricky, because I feel Pinarello is going to be a cup source in time.
I was going to say, there still looks to be upside around Pinarello, you would say, though.
Saying that La Creek does have the pedigree to get 2-4, but I think she's just got such a class about her that this time next year she'll be contesting weight for age at 2,000 metres. So, Yeah, it's an intriguing one, but I just feel that they might just want to take a sit rather than lead with La Creek, and hopefully one or two horses from a wide gate take it up in the first furlong or two at the start.
Okay, Paulie, what are your initial thoughts here in a derby? It's hard to get away from her, but anything can happen in a Group 1 3-year-old.
Yeah, no, she does look the one to beat. She has been very, very classy over her last few starts. Steve mentioned there's a wee bit of a liability on SVR. What he didn't mention was our worst result by far and away in this futures market is on Pinarello. Has been very, very well backed. We took a 10k bet at $5.50, a $600 bet at $31. If you want to cheer against the TAB this Saturday, you'll be cheering for Pinarello to get up and wave to the crowd. I see the Baker Forsman team. We've got a trio of runners here, led by White Noise. I don't mind the look of Regal Lion. I like the way he's finished off. I thought he got to the line and was it the Waikato Guineas? Just kept coming as well. Yep. And at $41, I think represents a wee bit of value, especially if you're looking at a top 3 or a top 4. So I've got Regal Lion in there somewhere. In fact, I think I've found a power play that we can have a little go at that includes La Creek and Regal Lion.
Okay, you're going to keep that up your sleeve until the end. Okay, I understand that. Oh, look, BP, Tutakaka. What do we make of Tutakaka's run in the Avondale Guineas? I was probably expecting a little bit more. We didn't quite see the Tutakaka we perhaps saw in Australia.
We didn't, did we? And I guess you've got to take the comments on of JKB Riddell, which were posted on, of course, the LSE website where they interviewed the jockey straight after the race. He just came back and said it never tried, the Tutakaka. What I would say is that if you go back over his run 2 starts ago, they went blisteringly hard, didn't they? It was a race set up for back markers, and he was able to show his best form by flooding home over 1,600 metres and finishing hard. And you went, wow, there's the Derby favourite, basically, with how he ran in that Karaka Classic. We'd all seen him run through the spring. He ran 6th in the Victorian Derby. He was a Geelong Classic winner. We know he goes further the better with Tutakaka. His disappointing runs, obviously first up in the Auckland Guineas, no speed in the race. Field of Gold led, Dark Destroyer sat in the trail, they ran the Cornella. His disappointing run on 2 weeks ago, Avondale Guineas, got back, race didn't develop into his favour. So what do they need to do to try and help his chances? Is it by putting him forward in the race? He has to be in the first half of the field first of all, because I think if he sits back and there's no tempo in the race, the same thing's just going to happen, isn't it? So is he the one horse where something a little bit different needs to happen for him to be at his best? He's drawn out. Is it a case that he goes back and we see the same thing again, or do they try something with him and put him and be a little bit more urgent in that first half of the race? If they are and offers Australian spring form, well, then he has a chance. It's just, when you hear comments like Jonathan's made and how to try and weigh up that run and how the race developed, and if that's the same thing on the weekend, tricky horse to have. That's why I think RJ's Flight actually becomes an option. I mean, we keep talking about the Avondale Guineas as a race. I think he's a great top 3, top 4 chance, RJ's Flight, because he potentially could get the same sort of run. I mean, he's a horse who just sat back on the rail. He followed the horses through. La Creek was too good for him, yes, but he was a runner that still ran well to finish into that second spot and was the next best in the race. So he could run a very similar race and gain a top 4 placing. I think Regal Lion is, the comments from Matt Cameron was bring on the Derby after the Avondale Guineas with how he ran in that race. Yes, he has to turn around that defeat. He's going to get more distance. They've spoken highly about how he will run out an extra distance. He is probably the other roughie in the race that you could entertain a top 4 bet, or maybe a power play or a trifecta in first 4 if you're trying to extend it in around La Creek. I do like White Noise as my second selection in the race, purely on how the horse ran the second best figures in the Avondale Guineas. When he's come from behind them, he's had to concede, a couple of lengths on La Creek when turning for home, and he's done a really good job to finish through the line into his 4th position. He's got stakes winning form this season. He has a good draw. Interesting to hear from Andrew Forsman. They were looking to be a little bit more positive with him in the Avondale Guineas. It didn't quite eventuate. They have the chance to be in a forward and first half position on Saturday. He's a danger. He is a danger at around that $9 quote, and I like what I saw from in the Avondale Guineas to say he's a strong hope on the weekend.
Just talk to about Asterix, just quickly, BP, because he sort of brings a different form line. I see there's a sprinkling of money for him. The win last time was good, but it'll be a big effort.
It will be, and look, it will be a big effort for Asterix, Privileged Son, and look, even SVR as well for those horses that come in just with the one win next to their name in their qualification by winning those particular maiden races. It's going to be a tough effort from where he is, isn't he? From drawing out in barrier number 12, he's a horse that is probably more than likely going to go back if that's how they want to play it tactically with him. I mean, great to see these colours. Of course, it's a Derby winning colours. You have to go back to Popsy in 1993 when we saw those colours winning, and Mark Greatbatch in amongst the ownership. Of course, he handed out the Stags caps last weekend at the Ford Trophy final down in Queenstown, and great to see Mark Greatbatch part of a horse that's in the Derby. He's always loved his ponies. Here's Paddy Batch. So yeah, it looked great to see him here with a chance here. Privileged Son won a maiden race out of counties where, look, it was low on form, but they did the job. They got the qualification. I mean, there's horses that when there's only 13 runners. That's another thing about the race too. We don't have a full field for the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. When you have horses like Dark Destroyer, who ended up not going towards the Derby because of those few little niggles. Field of Gold didn't push on after his disappointment in the Avondale Guineas, and a number of other sort of maiden horses that were trying to work their way into the race. It couldn't win a race to be able to qualify. So yeah, that's disappointing from that aspect. But really, every time you go over this field, guys, Lark Creek is the one that you keep coming back to.
Yeah. We'll get to Pops's and Paul's bets in just a second. Any final thoughts, Steve, on the Derby before we get to the boys' bets?
No, not really. It'll be intriguing how Jonathan rides Pinarello. I think it'll be dictated of how the race shape is throughout running. But if it is a real slack up front, then I wouldn't mind a mid-race move from Pinarello. It might be a calculated risk, but I think you've got to take down a race like this when you're up against a gun filly. But look, just going back on Pinarello, he does have that turn of foot. Of all winners on Avondale Guineas Day, he recorded the fastest last 200 on that meeting. So he was hitting the line nicely and through the line, Pinarello. But definitely I have the filly on top, Lark Creek. No surprise, $1.85. Yeah,
okay, BP, we'll come to you first. Well, how would you attack a Derby? If you want to give us a top 3 or 4, please do. But how would you attack the Derby from a betting perspective as well?
I'll just quickly go back to Stephen around how the race might be run with Lark Creek. If she does take that spot in behind and something goes to the front, if there is that mid-race move, are we concerned that something comes around and a couple of horses maybe try to open the race up, that she gets in a slightly awkward position at that point of the race at around the 1,000-metre mark when those other horses come rushing around?
Possibly, but you just got to back Vinny. I'd rather her still take a sit and Vinny work out a little bit of a passage, maybe off the rail at that stage where he sees maybe 1 or 2 going forward at around about the 800-metre mark, rather than her being exposed up front leading and then getting attacked because she could tend to over-race, etc. So I'd rather just still take the sit and back Vinny to make a passage if there is 2 or 3 horses and she gets shuffled back 2-3 back on the rail. That's when Vinny's got to make an option and peel her off the paint and get her a one off the fence.
He just wants to sort of ease off the leader's back potentially.
But you do make a good point, BP, and that's the beauty about the Derby. It looks tactical. Will it play out that way? And but if she's within 1 or 2 lengths at the top of the straight, her turn of foot, and if they run even tempo and nothing more, she'll just be too good.
Yeah, okay, Pops. Lay it out for us, the Derby this year.
Yeah, well, look, I think we're trying to find how to make some money off Lark Creek, and maybe the best way to do it is look towards a power play option. And there's a number of power plays here that the TAB have already released. I do like the one where it's Lark Creek to win and White Noise to run in the top 4. So that's at $4. Just quickly looking on my screen here. Lark Creek to win, White Noise top 4 is $4. There is a safer option of Lark Creek and White Noise to finish in the top 4. So that just gives you that insurance if Lark Creek is to be beaten. That's $2.20. I think that's maybe the possible line I'm looking to try and play is find something to couple up with Lark Creek. I do like White Noise as a strong top 2 place chance in the race. And if I was looking for a roughie to try and maybe see if it can squeak into the money somewhere, I'd be looking at maybe RJ's Flight, just because he's got that chance of of having the same sort of run as he got on the Avondale Guineas race. He finished into second position. Why can't he run a place on the weekend with a similar run?
Yeah, no reason why he can't. Paulie, how you release this power play you've been had up your sleeve? Let us know what it is.
Well, I agree with BP there. I think the only scenario where La Creek doesn't win is if she finds herself 3 or 4 back and struggles to get out down that Ellerslie straight. But I'm with Vinny on board, I struggle to see that happening. So I've gone with a power play. I've gone with La Creek top 2 finish and Regal Lion top 4 finish at $7.
Juicy.
As you say, Maddie Cameron was quite bullish about Regal Lion's chances, and I'm sure if Regal Lion does get a wee bit of a run, and there is it's a true staying test, then I can see Regal Lion being there or thereabouts, and Murray Baker waving to the crowd from his couch at home.
Well, the 7th probably wasn't as bad as it looked, Paul. I mean, I'd not say it was bad in the Avondale Guineas. It was running on late, wasn't it? So
yeah,
you'd expect the 2400 will suit.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, La Creek, the boys, I know a few of the White Noise syndicate owners, so I'm hoping White Noise, I'll say wins or doesn't win, one or the other, but I'll be hearing plenty about it if White Noise.
Just a quick question to BP.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that probably want to back Pinarello. I'm confident that La Creek trades in the red right throughout to race start time. Because of that and getting the percentage down as we get closer to race start time, do we see Pinarello touching 4, maybe 450?
Yeah. Maybe could even get into that $5 zone potentially. I think he is without a doubt the one that can beat La Creek. I mean, I know we probably haven't spoken enough about him. I mean, his victory, he just seems to be on target, doesn't he? With how he's won that 65. That is a good guide in terms of horses that have not as good as the Avondale Guineas, of course, but it has been a race where horses have qualified through that and got themselves into the Derby. He blew them away. I mean, he just left them standing, didn't he? With how that good turn of foot and acceleration, he produced those sectionals, as you said, Stephen, to be the best for the program in terms of how he was able to do that over 2,100 metres. He's got it all. He's got it all in front of him. He's a son of Tavistock, and he's got the right training combination too, of course, and Roger James and Robert Wellwood. So I see the Quinella is $3, the fixed to Quinella around La Creek, and also Pinarello. But yeah, to answer your question, Stephen, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a strong surge for La Creek, maybe similar to what we saw in the Avondale Guineas. The Avondale Guineas was all about the perfect pink leading up to race day, and then the La Creek surge came, and it came in a really big, strong wave, didn't it, in the last probably, 5 or 10 minutes of that race. Could we see something like that around here in the Derby on the weekend?
Yeah, okay, so 3.8 at the moment, Pinarello. We might perhaps suggesting that price may ease out slightly. The boys like La Creek, obviously, White Noise, Regal Lion, and maybe sneak a little bit of RJ's Flight into your combinations for this year's Derby. An outstanding race, and hopefully see the best of La Creek in it.